Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Education and Business Committee meeting. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Half-Community-speaking people, specifically the Quamitson Village. The Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside the Quatsin, Malahats, Sabasset, Wall, Mellicats, Mayas, and the Axum peoples who have cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the ceded and unceded territories of their land as we work together to lift up all our hahasminim. Adoption of the agenda, please. Trustee Schmidt, Trustee Croft, all in favor? Motion carried. Minutes of the May 28, 2024 Board of Education and Business Committee meeting. Can I remove it for that, please? Trustee Lise, Trustee Strachan, all in favor? Motion carried. Education, school plans, Discovery Elementary, Principal Danny Moreau.
Thank you. Okay, just press the space bar.
No. We're just going to share again. It just got held up.
Thank you, Morris.
There we go. It's just a little right.
We're going to move over so I'm not yeah, sorry. Hello, my name is Danny Morrow. I'm the principal of Discovery School.
My name is Emily Nickerson. I am the vice principal of Discovery School. I'm grade 6-7 teacher.
And we have some guests with us who've opted to introduce themselves. Tell me who you are.
My name is Amina, and I am in grade 3, and
That's good. Perfect. Ethan?
my name's Ethan. I'm grade 6 at Discovery Elementary.
Thank you.
All right, so to start, we've got up here our Discovery Land Acknowledgement. Last year, kind of at the beginning of our Truth and Reconciliation journey for the year, we just kind of asked ourselves, where would we like to go? What would we like to do? And the first thing we realized is we didn't really have a way of acknowledging territory within our own school context. So there was a committee of us that met, and we talked, and we walked through it. We came up with our land acknowledgement, and then we passed it by our Indigenous education support worker who told us that her preference was that it said Coast Salish, because there is, to our understanding, a bit of an interesting kind of understanding of whose land, what the story of the land is there, and so we use Coast Salish while we are at school. Yeah, and I think Amina's going to lead us in it. Go ahead.
At Discovery, we are grateful to learn on the Coast Salish land, play on Coast Salish land, and work on Coast Salish land. We acknowledge the Coast Salish people who are on this land before us. We are grateful. I accept that.
Sorry. On Friday, last Friday, we had our Terry Fox assembly, and we hadn't arranged for anyone to do the land acknowledgement at that assembly, and all like the kids were coming in and sitting in their lines, and you know, the bustle of a morning assembly. And Miss Nickerson teaches grade 6-7, and she had a couple of boys who were maybe sitting in the teachers' chairs and not exactly where they're supposed to be. And so in an effort to sort of redirect them, I came over and I'm like, oh, hey boys, would you like to do the land acknowledgement for our assembly? And surprising to me, they were like, yeah, sure. Like not even, didn't even miss a beat. And just like we have here, we had this, is in all our classrooms and in our hallways, we had it up on the screen. So at the beginning of the assembly, I introduced the boys and said, you know, these two boys are gonna do our land acknowledgement for us, and we gave them the posters, so they didn't have to do this. We gave them one of the posters, and the two boys, you know, at Discovery, and then, unbeknownst to anyone, 400 students just started to say it with the boys, and I got a little clumped in the middle of the assembly because I wasn't expecting it, but it felt really good to have a piece that we all are a part of, and all of our kids are familiar with the land acknowledgement. Our school is Discovery School. We are deep in Shawnigan Lake. This year we have 395 students, 17 divisions. We have a tremendous amount of support within our school. Our staff get along really, really well. We have 1.0 resource teacher. We have a school librarian. We have LA. We have ELL. We have a school counselor. We are very well supported in our context. And in addition to all the great things that we have that are beautiful about the inside of our school and our school community, we are so incredibly grateful to have the most beautiful outside of our school.
I've been at Discovery now for 3 years, and when I first came to Discovery, I was absolutely just taken aback at the incredible school grounds that we have. We're nestled in the forest. We have a huge forest that surrounds our school. We have a huge field. We've got a sand pit. We've got we have a huge school property. And while it is sometimes challenging for supervision purposes, it also just offers so many incredible opportunities for the kids to play and learn and develop just an amazing sense of wonder about our natural world. Once I became vice principal and I was outside now on supervision every day, I'm seeing even more of that. They're playing and creating forts, and they're making stores, and they're building things, and they're starting nature clubs, and it is truly just such a magical and special place. We just love it. We love our school.
We have 395 students. At the beginning of last year, we asked our staff to surface all of the great things about our learners, and they surfaced all of the great things that you would want learners to feel. As a new principal in the school, I have to say I was quite taken aback with how inclusive and welcoming and friendly every individual student was. I knew 0 names going in on the first day of school, but over the course of the last year and a tiny bit, everyone was so welcoming to a new person, so it just feels really good to have a community of learners who are also so caring and so inclusive. We also have some stretches. This is a reality of an elementary school. In addition to surfacing many of our strengths, we also surfaced and were able to witness some areas of stretch. And we use our report card data, our literacy data, our eyeballs to see the things that are happening in front of our eyes. And we noticed that there was probably 3 areas that we could see potential for the most growth in. One of those areas is literacy, not just literacy skills, but literacy confidence. Lots of our kiddos are struggling to read, but also struggling to feel good about themselves as readers. We also have lots of our kids are still learning how to manage their feelings without using their fists. This is a reality of 395 kids, and we are working on it, but it definitely is a stretch. And the other piece is just an acknowledgement of our role as humans in the Truth and Reconciliation journey. We do not have a lot of Coast Salish evidence around our school. I come from Alexander School, where you're deeply immersed in Indigenous learning, and Discovery is a long way away. We don't have any students in our school who are on reserve Indigenous learners. We are a long way away from reserves, and we're just looking for an opportunity to bring more Coast Salish into our school community. And through those stretches that we recognized, we have set some goals for ourselves this year, and Ethan and Amina are going to talk a little bit about their experience with some of these goals. Our first goal, like I mentioned, is not just about literacy growth and skill, but in literacy confidence. Last year, as Ms. Nickerson and I were working to put our framework for enhancing student learning together, we just asked kids a lot of questions. And one of the people we asked questions of was Miss Amina here. And she had a great teacher last year for her grade 2 year where she learned a lot about reading. So Amina, can you tell us a little bit about how Mrs. Atwell helped you with your reading and what you learned?
She helped me to read long words with putting her finger in the middle and reading each half of it. And then she would take her finger off and then she would say, "What do we have all together?" And I would say the words. of how reading big words all together.
Thank you, Amina. So Amina has grown in her reading skill, but also in her confidence. And my friend Ethan over here has given us permission to talk a little bit about his journey over the last year of just managing his way through feelings of anger and just being in himself, and then having his anger come out in calm and respectful ways rather than through the knuckles. Ethan, can you tell us a little bit about how Miss McQuay helped you last year go from being angry with your fists to being angry just in your body?
She would just let me go in some quiet places with my friends and just sit in some special chairs and let me go outside for a minute and take some deep breaths and let me come back in if I was feeling alright. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
There was one time that Ethan's given us permission to share about that. I think it happened 2 separate times, but with both of us, when we came and found you outside. And I said, Ethan, what's going on? Why are we not in class right now? And what did you say? Do you remember?
No.
I really wanted to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
But I
didn't.
Yeah.
and it was great. And it happened a few times. And we all 3 of us celebrated that pretty big, because learning to walk away and not use your hands when you're feeling super frustrated it's a skill.
It's really hard.
It's hard.
And I would say that
We're proud of
this
you.
young man is probably one of our greatest growths over the last year. We're so very proud of him, especially this, standing in front of a whole bunch of strange adults. That was a good time.
And then
go ahead.
Well, yeah, and then our last goal is just truth and reconciliation. So we've been working a lot on, we started with our land acknowledgement, so this year kind of talking about where is that going to go, what's our next step for that. We started a Coast Salish mural last year with art from Stuart, and we're still working on it. It's taken some time. Pretty much every single kid in the school has had some part in being a part of that mural, and so it's been a pretty awesome experience to get to see it just really, really slowly grow and shape and become what it is now, and unveil eventually. So there's been some really awesome work so far.
And we're being very purposeful in incorporating some of our local language into our day-to-day at Discovery School. Our morning and our afternoon announcements will often have some Hulkaminum phrases in there that are just easy to replace, so you can figure out what the word is quite easily. And I can't remember what else I was going to say. Land acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement piece, not just about doing that with our school each day and each morning, but in classes each day and each morning. And with our staff, we're inviting staff to just begin that journey of doing those hard things that are sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, but that's how we learn and grow. And we had some great opportunities for some staff conversations and discussions yesterday afternoon around this very topic. So we're very excited to see what's happening next. Speaking of what's next.
So this is our Stories Beyond, so kind of a wrap up of our last year. I think Amina has a special memory. There's a picture of it that she wants to tell us about.
Do you remember your bike ride?
Yeah.
Can you tell them a little bit about what that was?
When I went bike riding, I felt very happy because I was with my class and it was so good. And we were bike riding twice, which was so happy with me and all of our friends.
Thank you, Amina. And do you have a special memory from last year that you'd like to turn and face and tell everyone about?
So last year at Discovery, my teacher had a plan to let us go to hockey ball. We were the only class in Discovery School to go, so we were very lucky to do that.
Yeah, and that's some of our community building that we have going on, which is one of our...
And that is what we are working toward. We are really focusing on community, accountability, resilience, and empathy. And if you've had a look at our festival, you will see that when you put the first letter of those words together, that spells care. And we've really been emphasizing that at Discovery we care, and everything that we are doing moving forward is going to fit into one of those 4 words, and we are really excited to launch into this school year with that mindset, positive mindset. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Please. Do we have any questions? I do. To the students. When you talk to your teachers, do they listen to you if you have a problem?
Yeah.
And do they help you through that problem?
We're just like 3 days into new classes this year, so both Amina and Ethan are meeting new teachers, but I think last year they were both very lucky, and we have 18 last year, 17 this year, classroom teachers who are incredibly dedicated and professional and so very caring.
I was very honored to come out and visit Discovery at the end of last school
Got your
year.
steps in, hey?
And I got my steps in, so trustees, if you have an opportunity, you really need to go to Discovery and actually walk the grounds they're talking about. I have never, ever experienced, and as the kids came out, it was just, it's amazing, because the school may have a ton of kids, but it looks like they have like 20. Because there's so much space for kids to grow and to play, and it's really quite a magical place to be, so you really should go check it out. And thank you for your presentation today, and thank you for your truths and sharing your stretches.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, you did great. Yeah, really good.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tanzer, Mr. Brett Ranger.
We aren't sure which side is the front, so we'll follow suit and we'll follow suit around. Thanks. So I think it's important that our most important people do most of the talking. So Brooklyn and Macy will start the presentation. I'm going to do a bit of a wrap up, and Mr. Coop will be talking about our literacy. But before I do that, our young ladies here created some travel brochures for all of you. So if you do, when you do come to Tanzer, you'll want to check out our travel brochure, and they can talk a little bit about what they did to create that. And as leadership students, I think they'd probably be a good place to start with telling you a little bit about Tanzer Elementary from a student perspective. So we'll just take one and pass it on, and then
Hi, I'm Macy, and I'm Brooklyn. And as you know, we are here to talk about Tanzer Elementary. These are the travel brochures that we made. We listed quotes from kids at Tanzer and some activities kids enjoy here. At our school, we treat everyone equally, no matter their age, identity, or culture. Part of our support is having a PU club where everyone is accepted. Some things we enjoy about Tanzer are the forests, school dances, transfer beach trip, choir, the basketball team, and music classes.
So just a little bit about we asked them on short notice a week or two ago to create a travel brochure, and they were really good about it. We thought it was the best way to sort of capture information and not just two students' perspectives. So they went around to different classrooms and did a bit of a poll to see sort of where our kids are, what their interests in Tanzer, and what they thought would be important to share with the board about why is a good place to come to Tanzer. So that's sort of the idea sort of behind the travel brochure. We knew we had to talk about festival, and I did share our festival with our students. We talked about the major goals, but what's really important is where the rubber hits the road and what's important to kids. And so we wanted to come across something that's authentic, and we wanted our students to tell you what they think are important and the activities and the life of the school. So I think that's important for them to share that bit. So we thought we'd put them up first and get that out of the way, so we do appreciate that. So thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Mr. Coop, and he'll talk a little bit about our first festival goal.
All right, before I talk about that, just thank you both for doing that. It is amazing that we are the ones here talking about Tanzer when these two students have been there longer than either of us combined. I'm relatively new to Tanzer. I've been there for 4 years, but I want to talk about the staff a little bit. It's an amazing group of teachers. They connect so strongly to their students and so strongly to the community. A couple of pieces I wanted to highlight were we have dance teachers who teach all day and go to their dance studio and then teach the kids that they were teaching all day. We have music teachers who then go and share their gifts and share their performances with the community as well. And of course the athletics that we have has been phenomenal, and that's my passion, so I've been super excited to be and privileged to be a part of that. I'm going to talk a little bit about our literacy groupings, and I know that's our second goal, and I'm going to kind of jump ahead and then Mr. Angel will kind of follow up on. As a relatively new staff member to Tanzer, I was super excited to find people to collaborate with, and using kind of the inventory data, we were trying to figure out a goal that would work for literacy and then later on for numeracy. But one of the things we came up was retention. One of the things we were really concerned about was retention year to year with our students. So one of the things that myself and several other staff members, and we've used collaboration grants, we've used a lot of our personal time, was coming up with multi-age groupings to try to support students of all means, all levels, all ages, and support them where they are. It's been incredibly rewarding. It's been incredibly successful, and watching the kids year to year as they've gone through and having connections. I have a 5-6 teacher, having connections with grade 4 students who eventually come into my class and immediately first day are comfortable because they've had me, they've been in my classroom, I've connected with them. It's given me such an opportunity to just be a part of the community that I've really appreciated. We've been using UFLA, we've been using Jolly Phonics, we've been using Reading Rep, we've been using a lot of different programming just to try to hit that retention piece. And we've been trying to loop and spiral students just so they get the resources that they need. One of the things I've been super grateful for is, as a classroom teacher, the range of students that we have is so incredible. It's diverse. The needs of one student are nowhere close to the needs of the other. Being able to trust my fellow teachers, work with them, collaborate with them to provide supports, interventions in a classroom setting has been amazing. One thing we are looking forward to is getting more learning inventory results, because even with the last 3 years we've been doing this, we've been seeing results with retention year to year. And so I'm excited to see it continue, and I'm excited to continue working with our Tanzer staff.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that. I threw the festival out, and I know that's a lot of documents in a short bit of time. Just to kind of review we got 3 lofty goals to build foundational skills in numeracy and literacy. That in itself is like 2 major goals to begin with. So this is my 2nd year at Tanzer, and I came from Discovery, and they're right, they've got a wonderful outdoor space. So when I came to Tanzer, I thought, I'm not going to get that here, because it's an in-town school, but it's a school that's in and out of town. So it's an in-town school with a country feel because it's on the outskirts, and it's got a huge space. So I was really pleasantly surprised to come to an in-town school with similar outdoor feels and community base. It feels like a country school is probably the best way I can describe it. Having said that, working with a staff of 13 divisions and our 3 goals, it's been an amazing experience, and this year we're really sort of digging into what it means to push the goals forward. So with numeracy and literacy this year, our top goals, we thought it was important to make sure that kids are feeling safe. So our 2nd goal is the social emotional component. Kids aren't safe and fed and ready to learn. Our number 1 literacy and numeracy goal is out the water. So it's not going to happen. And our 3rd goal, of course, is something that's sort of, we're trying to get it immersed with all of the things we do every day at Tanzer, and that's our Indigenous way of being. And for me, I found the Hokkien language extremely difficult language to hear and understand auditorily. I really have to listen hard to understand, but I'm trying my best. But we've got some really great champions at our school. Lindsay Randall, one of our kindergarten teachers, she just teaches it on a daily. She teaches our kindergarten kids at Tanzer more Hokkien than I'll probably learn in the next 5 years, and they're doing sign language, and it's just amazing. So it's being immersed through at the school. I've got Elaine sent me an email today. Lynn Jack, our Indigenous support worker, said, hey, we're going to see if we can get some language experts coming into the school on top of the YouTube clips that are happening, like the online stuff. So we're constantly getting people to try to immerse all of the opportunities to have Indigenous ways of knowing in our building. And it's really good because now that I'm in an in-town school, we have quite a few Indigenous students that, we need that fair and equitable representation. And I think it's important that, even though it's goal number 3 on our list, it's not really the third goal, it's one of our goals. And I wanted to highlight that, just because it's number 3 doesn't mean it's the third most important. It's part of what we do. So that's a lofty amount, and to make sure that our community is involved with it, we've got a really strong PAC this year. And it's really important that our PAC is part of what we're doing in our school community, and to make sure that our parents know and can support what we're doing at home. I think sometimes that's a missing piece, because it's just those kindergarten parents that come out for that first year and then they get tired and they don't come anymore. And there's always that trying to get the parent involvement, and it's important that our parents support us. Coming into a school like Tanzer, when you walk the halls, you get a sense that the parents know what's going on, and grandparents. And it's important that they are involved with what we're doing and can support us at school. So some of the ways for the social emotional responsibility: we survey our students, we survey our parents, and then we try to set up support networks so we can make sure that we create and continue the school-wide culture of caring and building. And by the time kids get to grade 7, they can articulate why they feel confident, why they feel safe, why they feel like they're ready to learn and speak in front of the board and talk about what makes Tanzer really great. And then our Indigenous ways of knowing, it's the really unique opportunities that get infused into Tanzer. Like, I'd never seen spearfishing before. I didn't even know that was a thing that happened, and a bunch of our kids went and did that last year. Just one of many. I've got a list of about 20 different things that are happening on a weekly basis at Tanzer, and it's because we get the support of the community, and the kids will, yeah, of course we're learning about that. It's like, this is great. You know, it's not a special event, it's just part of our culture at our school, and I'm proud to be part of that. So it's sort of a bit of a wraparound in terms of our 3 goals. I think now that's my second year, we're going to be diving a little deeper into the numeracy, and along with our district, looking at our assessment tools in numeracy. All of our teachers are on board with digging in deeper, and how does that translate into increased improvement in basic skills in numeracy as they go from the primary into intermediate. And fortunately in a school of 300 kids, our teachers are a very tight, cohesive group, so we've got a lot of collaboration in primary and intermediate. So I think it's a pretty wonderful place to be. So I did want to give you a copy of the festival. I'm hoping that you can walk away and take a little look at it and see what's going on at Tanzer. It's a work in progress. We were a little data heavy last year with a lot of pie graphs that seemed to be just too much, so we are condensing it. And this year we're looking at digging a little, rather than spreading the net wide, we want to dig a little deeper into, especially those report card results, and some of the stats were a little lower in fully meeting than we hoped. And so now we're looking at, well, okay, so how does that translate into increased success? How do we do that? And I think that's where the difficult work is, and we're doing that alongside of our students. So that's pretty much it. If there's anything else, I'm just sure for time. Any questions?
Trustee Croft.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One, and it's about the activities, and I'm hoping the students can help me out here. So 2 questions. Can you tell me a little bit about what some of the activities might be at the BU Club? And my second question is, what is Gaga Ball?
You should play it.
Gaga Ball. So we basically have this, how do you explain it? Like a pit kind of, and it's some wood boards, and basically you have this ball. It's a game that, I don't know, I don't usually play it that much. You basically throw it against the wall, you try to get people out, and it's kind of like dodgeball. Yeah, kind of like dodgeball.
But in a, yeah, okay.
In an arena.
Yeah, I played that once badly.
Yeah. And the BU Club is a place where, so it's at lunch I think it's Thursday, yeah. And it's where people can just like feel very accepted and just be themselves. And do you have any other way of explaining it?
I could add a little bit to that.
We have a.
Another question. We have a question over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ranger, when did you get to your new school?
former students. When your new principal showed up last year, she came to Discovery and I came to Tanzer at the same time. And, yeah, 1 year, so.
1 year ago.
1 year ago, yes, good question. But Dad, about the BU Club, it aligns with our SOGI work in the district. And like the acronym BU, be yourself. And so it's a safe place for students to hang out and explore, who they are. There's a teacher, Startle, that runs the program and said it's at lunchtime for any kids that want a safe place to hang out.
And I know, just to really touch on that really quickly, because they're doing some cool stuff, and I'm not sure we've highlighted it appropriately or enough, is one of the surveys we took last year about trying to make sure that we could identify where the safe places in the school were and where students might feel unsafe. One of the big pieces were the washrooms. So we actually did contact BU and we are getting their support and their help, and they came up with ideas on how to make those places a little bit safer, a little bit more inviting, a little bit more welcoming for everybody. And so we've taken some of their suggestions.
Yeah, the antiquated designs of the bathrooms of the 70s are a bit outdated, so it creates some barriers and that's sort of some whatever.
Some positive beautification ideas as well.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies, well done. Thank you for taking us on a guided tour, travel around Tanzer Elementary. But I think I'm kind of on the activities like Trustee Croft here. And this is such a wide variety of activities. I think that's what's catching my attention. We often get different activities that happen in schools, but they're either sports related or they're theater related, but they're not everything related. And I think that's the piece that makes me excited. I mean, we know that I spend a lot of time at Tanzer, so appreciate Tanzer. However, I just want to say thank you for coming here today and being brave and standing up and telling us why Tanzer is a cool place to be and the cool things that you do. And to the staff, I'm always grateful for what I see. I know that I have a personal bias at the school, but I'm always grateful to see the change when I walk down the hallway. I know that our Indigenous students can see themselves at Tanzer. They can see their culture at Tanzer, and I think that that's one thing that I really appreciate about the school. And I just want to thank you for all the work you do, because we do have, there's a lot of challenges up in that building, but when you walk around the playground at lunch, you don't really see those challenges, which just are pretty cool. So just thank you for all that you guys do and continue to do. We appreciate it.
Trustee Lise.
This actually goes for both schools, and it's just right in front of us right here that we like the teachers and staff. They're very nice and helpful. Our teacher is very cool, funny, kind, and smart. And then we hear both of your schools talking about the relationships with each other, and that is such a great way to be a role model, but also to be just a healthy, strong, vibrant community. So hats off to both of your schools for that teacher connect. One second, you gotta go hats off.
Sorry.
We got hats today.
So question, Macy in Brooklyn. Tell us, how do you feel about this multi-age classroom thing that your teacher was talking about? No.
Sorry, what was your question?
About the multi-age, having different ages in classrooms. Do you see that?
Learning with students of different ages or grades.
Like the buddy system?
Buddy system, and then the math groupings that Ms. Goodman said, the general literacy groupings that Ms. Goodman said, Ms. Stargle, Ms. Emerson, myself.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
But we did this next year.
Yes.
Methods.
Yes.
I really enjoy them. I feel like I learned a lot of stuff during them, and I feel like mixing it up with teachers and having, instead of one teacher teaching all different things, not trying to be You know what I mean? Like having relationships with lots of teachers and yeah, just making relationships and feeling safe with everyone in the school.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Feel free to run. Great.
Yeah, I thought
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
It's not that great. There's,
Okay, thanks. Okay, up next, careers and trades. Mr. Ryan Goff.
Hello, everyone. Last time I was here, I had a data slide at the very end and no one could read it because it was getting smaller. And now we have another year of data on that same slide, so I printed it out. The careers team in the school district is comprised of myself, Ron, and Larry and Alita. There's just the four of us. Myself as the principal, and Ron and Larry as teachers, and Alita as the clerical. Arrows, okay, thank you. Just gonna go over, I have a slide at the end that goes over all the stuff we do, but a lot of you know all the stuff we do, but I'm just gonna go over some highlights of all the new things we're doing. Oh, go ahead. There we go. Okay. So anyways, last year we got a $50,000 grant for increasing health options and careers. And so we have to get more students into health careers with the hospital being built and multiple areas that we need people in the health profession. So we have Health Explorer Days at Camosun. We had a couple last year at the end of the year. We have another one coming up next month, and they're full. So it's one thing we've done a good job at. It's like the coveted hats that you guys all had, that people know who we are and know where to go to. It's not a mystery anymore, and because we've had consistent staff and everybody knows who to call. So the health careers option, we have a teacher doing one block each semester at Cal High, and so an hour and 20 minutes a day for the whole year, promoting health careers, hopefully, and that's for the entire district, because Ron, Larry, and I, and Alita are too stretched. We're finding. So that's and it's with health careers, and I'll show you this next slide. If it goes, there we go. Now, how do you do the thing? You have to get tech support. We made a quick video of our past students in health careers at Camosun, and
can do that
now
online,
everybody is stealing
or we have the.
Yeah, you okay?
Healthcare assistants are in great demand, and the graduates have more than equal opportunity to get 100% employment once they've graduated.
You get your certification, you're straight out of high school, you're going to be making a living wage.
Healthcare assistant is an entry-level program, and it's a very short program of 29 weeks, and it focuses on the older adults. So it really encourages students to get the experience of a college program, and if they are interested, branch into other programs, because we have a number of healthcare related programs within the Health and Human Services.
I took the healthcare assistant course. I heard about the course through my high school. It was a dual credit program. I felt like a superstar. Yeah, I felt awesome, and being done high school and college at the same time was such a relief, and all my friends were just going into college. I was already working, and I had a good job, and it's something right under your belt right away. I really liked it and enjoyed it.
Well, I was interested in working in the healthcare field, but I didn't know if that was going to be my career for sure. So seeing that this program was such a short term and that I could start it right away in high school, I decided it would be a good fit for me.
Really hands-on learning, and the difference between college and high school is you're actually doing something that you care about and it's specific to you, so it makes learning more in depth and something that you enjoy doing.
So we have the MOA 155, which is medical terminology prerequisite course, and you can do that online. Or we have the MLab 139 laboratory principles course, and that you can take as a precursor. That's a regular course in our program. So medical lab assistants are one of 3 courses in the allied health program at Camosun. So we have the medical lab assistant, which is accessible entries. We also have the medical radiography and the sonography program in allied health. One of the really great parts of allied health is the interactive labs, and in our new building here we do have a teaching clinic on the first floor for the ultrasound students where they actually are working in an island health clinic.
We have a course that's PNUR 101, which is Anatomy and Physiology. It's offered to students as a dual credit program. It's a prerequisite for the program, so students must complete this before entering into practical nursing.
I would say do it. You don't have anything to lose because you're starting it before you even graduate high school, so you're not losing any time to this program. You're getting out into your career field right away. You get the experience right away. You're basically guaranteed a job because there's so many open positions. They're always looking for people in healthcare.
Honestly, I'm feeling a lot better than, I'm less nervous about university now, because before I was like, hey, maybe it's gonna be super tough, but now I kind of know the general gist of it, so I'm pretty happy about that. I took PNUR 101, was the anatomy and physiology course that they provided at Camosun. So my end goal is to become an optometrist, and I'm going to be attending UBC in the fall and going into general sciences through that. I kind of prepped me for how the course load is going to be and how kind of present myself as I'm taking a course. And I think it's a really valuable experience.
Our videos are looking better than the Camosun and VIU videos. And I've watermarked them specifically so that they have to pay us to use them because they have asked. So yeah, I went over that. So going on to kind of another thing that we do, and that you guys are all familiar with this, is the youth work apprentices. I'd like to highlight that we had 109 apprentices last year, and that I asked the stats last year from the Skilled Trades BC, and I don't know if Jeff shared them with you, but we had the most amount of apprentices in the province, higher than Surrey, higher than Vancouver. So we call it the RARL team. Ron, Alita, Ryan, and Larry are really crushing it. So yeah, it's amazing. The students we have going out there and working and having that constant connection, like I said, and we're not advertising for these programs much anymore. I don't, because we don't have seats in all of these programs. We're not advertising for help, that's our angle now. But for our trades program, we are filling every seat we have, basically. And for youth apprenticeships, our phones are ringing, and we're getting emails every day from people and staff within the community. So last year we handed out $74,000 worth of youth work awards, and so that's really exciting. We are always hovering around 67, 69. Because we crushed the 70,000 mark. Which is awesome. Unfortunately, this year is the last year of the award, but it's going to be turning into a grant that the students have to apply for, which is really unfortunate. But the district has, we're going to be giving them a $250 award as an incentive to kids, because the kids need that cash to get their insurance for their car, some tools, and get to work. And then only those students that are in need can apply for this award. So we need an incentive, and also for them to do the paperwork and whatnot. So we're hoping this continues, and it is. We are in the high 20s already for youth apprentices for September, and we're all telling about the new deal, and everybody seems to be on board. And I think it's just because my brother and everybody else did it, and I knew somebody else, and word travels fast, so that's good. A few other things we're working on is we're based up in Alt Ed, and this is part of the alternate education that we're focusing on the alternate students, is we're going to be offering a bunch of certificate training for them to be job-ready skills. I've booked cashier training, we've booked the barista training, we've booked the first aid and CPR training, working on the flagging. Food safe is booked, customer service, I'm in negotiations, and same with the H2S training and forklift and scissor lift. Those are still in the works. But I plan to have one every month, basically, or so. more leaning towards like in the spring. I got one basically every month going on. There's a lot of other things going on as well. We have trips, field trips to the mill, the hospital tours, all that stuff happening as well. There's lots of things going on, but these ones are just focused for the alt-ed students. We'll be backfilling with the regular students as well, but these will be all free of charge for those students up there at Seabolt. So, next thing is, you might be able to see it better on your paper, but this basically goes over everything we do. Yeah, everything from, women in trades and to youth work in trades, to tri-trades, and it goes over what we do from all the way from kindergarten to grade 12. So we're really focusing not just on 10 through 12, we're focusing on everybody with career education, and we're there as a resource for everybody as well. A couple other things we're working on. So we have a Pathways for Life. There's a Pathways for Life program at Camosun College, and those are for more evergreen graduate students or maybe barely a Dogwood student. So those students have some challenges in their life, and they usually are the ones that unfortunately are homeless after graduation or a few years after graduation. It's from statistics and working with the agencies in town. So the Pathways for Life in Camosun, I was part of a grant, and we got a considerable amount of money, and we're hopefully expanding that we're expanding it this spring. It'll be happening this May. There's going to be 20 spots. We're working with VIU, and those students that are going to be, basically, it's going to be a soft landing into the community. So those students will have access to all the resources at the Access Center. They'll be going to all those places, but also with the supports of somebody else, not their teacher. So we want those, we want to prevent, we don't want to prevent them, but they're more welcome to come back the following year and say hi. Those ones that after they graduate, they have nowhere to go, and they come back in September because they're graduated. So we want to stop that cycle for those students, and hopefully identify those students beforehand and help them transition to the community and help them learn about all the supports, whether it be the Clement Center, the farms, the culinary farms, or there's so many supports out there, and there's no real list of them all. And so this is going to be the list of them all, and then maybe those students find a fit in one of them, and they can lean on them if they get into trouble later on in life. We have a Technology Work Experience Expansion Grant. We just applied for it. It's another $50,000. If that goes through, we'll be expanding onto not just like the health, we'll expand the technology careers, and there's a couple other variations in that technology. For some reason, forestry was in there as well. So I don't know how forestry was technology, but it was like tree planting and whatnot. And then on May 7th, 8th, we are hosting the RAL team is hosting the Vancouver Island Career Educators Conference here, and you're more welcome to attend. It's May 7th and 8th, and we're still figuring out how we're doing that, but we're doing it. And then I think Artie went over the Health Careers Expansion Grant as well as the Health Career Exploratory Days. And then there's all our stats for every year, and as you can see, we are always increasing. We had a dip last year in our traits numbers due to the welding. We are back up. We are sending the most amount of students we have ever sent to Camosun. There's 46 students going to Camosun this year, and that chose to take the commuter bus and whatnot, and we really pushed that. And so they are going down there. We're at 75, 76, 77, I think now. This is a day or two old. It's going down for the trades programs down there, and then the dual credit academics, non-trades is back up to 150-ish, and that changes daily, and that's because last year the ministry slammed kind of hard on some of our neighboring districts with audits, and then they've made it more clear what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and so we are playing within those guidelines now, and we're back up to where we were. And then I think that's it. Are there any questions?
Mostly just to express congratulations and appreciation. I remember when you guys were going out to construction sites to find employers and apprentices and kind of signing them up on the spot. So
we're still doing that.
Well, I don't want to.
I've been known to park, I put my hazards on, I jump a fence.
Well, I just think
Yeah.
you've taken something that went from 0 to like 600 miles an hour over the years and with an awful lot of hard work. And I know the content of the programming that you deliver is critical, but I suspect that the work that you put into this is a really enormous example to all of the students and the folks in the program of, working hard and working smart.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for that, because that takes a lot of passion and heart. And I'd also just like to make the point that there are kids living here and on the island that have futures for the rest of their life only because of this program. And there are families that are staying together and staying close with their extended family only because of this program. And I rather suspect that the school and the hospital and the RCP building would have run into a lot more delays had it not been for the kids that graduated from this program. So thank you for making it do all it was expected to do and far more. So thank you.
I have a question, Ryan, regarding the employment certifications. Now, you said that it's free for all the Seabolt kids. Is it also free for our satellite alternate kids?
Yes.
So for all alternate kids? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, we'll be housing, well, we haven't really figured out where we're gonna house them all, but basically wherever I can find a room and whatnot at the right time. So, but basically I'm trying to keep it central. And I'm gonna probably have it up in the Grove or at, oh man, who knows? I don't know what's at Cal High or the new Cal High or what's available, right? We'll figure that out as we go. But yeah, it's for everyone. And we're just gonna keep it central in Duncan. We're not gonna be going, because everybody's gonna come in. And so hopefully we're gonna use the van and get Ron to drive around, pick kids up and get them in here. So that's not a barrier.
And thank you. I know the board is constantly talking about career program. And so I'm sorry. But it is exciting for our kids to know, and I think the video shared it, that they have a career when they leave school. They have something that they can count on, and whether it's kids in care or whomever, it gives them an opportunity they might not otherwise get. So though I know we've stretched you thin in our requests, and thanks Robin for being on this, but I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful for the difference you're making in the lives of kids. So thank you.
In May, June, when we go around and we do the scholarship sessions with the students, it was so clearly evident when we were at Seabolt, the immense pride that those students have in their accomplishments. Girls in welding, there was just this. Kathy and I did it together, but it really is this overwhelming sense of pride that the students themselves have, and they showed us all their work and their bending and.
That was the most amount of women we've had in welding.
It was so exciting. It was impressive.
Out of the 18.
Very impressive. So,
there's a lot.
Love it. Thank you.
Trustee Strachan.
Yeah, I have to echo everybody's comments. Like, these career projects are phenomenal, and I know we talked a bit about the healthcare one last year, but there's so much need there. And as my family's benefit from having people come into the house and care for my mom until she died, and we would have loved to have had someone in our house every day to do respite and stuff, but there just was nobody trained. So this is the future, really, and the fact that students are actually getting that experience before they have to go to college, it's phenomenal. I wish I'd had those opportunities when I was young. And then young Caden, I did his scholarship presentation last year. Yeah, and he was phenomenal. And he was off to become an optometrist, and it was he was already halfway there because of the programming he did. Yeah, he was phenomenal. So. Keep up the great work, and I think this is where we need to be, because not everybody wants to go to university and study, engineering and
Well, that's the new rules. You can't, the new rules, you cannot say on there you're going to be a doctor. You can't say you're going to be a lawyer. Like that's what we used to let them all fly. You have to, it has to be a bachelor's or less. So a bachelor's, a certificate, or diploma. So when we're reading the transition plans for the kids, they're really pushing for like kind of smaller credentials, not like masters, like bachelor's and less for those career paths. So, which is good.
I think it's great stats. I hope you
kids.
I hope you can track, how the students who are part of this program then go on to realize success, because I think that would help you with your grants.
We have to track for all those students and the students going into it for the grant, for the medical grant, and we have to track them. But it would be really fun, really cool to track the next 5 years for all of our students, right? But yeah, it's pretty intense.
Congratulations.
Any other questions? I have one. What do you need from us to expand even more?
That's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question. I have such a great team. If you could have a cloner and clone the people I'm working with, because they work so hard and they don't. It's just like they work till the job's done. And so like on Saturday, Ron was meeting kids at Great Greens and signing kids up for apprenticeships because they couldn't meet, during the day until, and it just fit in their schedule and just get the job done. So, they're just a bunch of hardworking people that need to, and they understand that it's so good for kids. So, clone my staff and we'll be there. But yeah, no, I don't, the learning curve is so long that it is tough. You just can't throw more staff at it, because you throw more staff at it and it's, and you have to have someone that's really passionate about it. And that's the trick, because most people become teachers to be teachers, not to do this. And I'm not teaching anymore. It's why I'm dealing with disciplinary problems sometimes, but you know what I mean? It's a very different world, and most people don't sign up for it. And so, I'd say it's the staffing, but finding that right person that's the trick, right? But I did find the right person for the health, I think, and then that's going really well. It's the trick, and the staffing to recruit the kids at the schools, those career people. There's so many layers, but yeah, it's all about the people, finding people. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, on to our next one, the Integrated Child and Youth Team.
We're up. I've got a hard act to follow. Nice energy.
All ladies.
Yeah.
I just was very familiar with Hanley.
That's okay. Stay and watch our presentations, right? So thank you very much for this opportunity to come and talk to you about the integrated child and youth teams and where we are in our path implementing these teams. We are part of phase 3, and we received that acknowledgement last year in June, at the end of the year, that we were being one of 8 districts that. Why are you walking away from me?
Well, I can
see it there.
I'm trying to get out of everyone's line of sight.
One of 8 districts that would have the opportunity to embed the programs this year. So we're very, very fortunate, very excited, almost as excited as Ryan is. So the document on the screen right now, Pathway to Hope, was developed between 2017 and 2019, and it was in response to the recognition that we just don't do a good enough job in the province around addressing children, youth, and families around substance abuse and mental health. So they created 4 main pillars of targeted ways to do a better job, and one of them is the development of the ICY teams. It looks like ICY, but the Integrated Child and Youth Teams, the acronym is ICY. Kim, you can weigh in at any time if you want to add a little bit more.
Just that one of the reasons that this document was created was because one of the identified deficiencies in the system was the smooth access to services within small communities. And so many of these strategies in these 4 columns were intended to be able to address that lack of access that families had in their communities, to be able to have that wraparound service and not have to tell their story 5 or 6 or 7 times because the first person they called was the wrong agency, and then that agency sent them to another agency. So many of these strategies, including and most specifically the integrated child and youth teams, were specifically to address that wraparound service and give child, youth, and families that single point of contact so that they could access the service that they needed.
Thank you. And the first teams did roll out prior to the pandemic. Maple Ridge, I believe, is one of the first school districts to get a team. And then it sort of went on hold as other priorities clearly came up. And so more districts were being added all the time. So we have the good fortune of learning from other districts about what went well, and also get some strategies on suggestions on how to avoid some of the pitfalls. You've got the slide with you?
Claire's in charge.
Oh, Claire's in charge. Did you skip a page? No, you didn't skip a page. So Kim just touched on this a second ago. It is about breaking down the barriers for our families and students. It is a completely wraparound program. For example, if a student is identified as needing some additional support, the school counselor can make contact with the team lead, and the team lead then works on who should be involved in supporting the family and the children. And so it's absolutely an integrated, the ministries all work together. It's an exceptional program, and it really is intended to fill in the gaps that we currently have. Kim, want to answer that one?
When we say integrated and we refer to the ministries, the partner agencies are the Ministry of Education and Childcare, Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, Ministry of Child and Family Development, and Island Health. And that's the integrated services. When the I in integrated refers to those 4 agencies.
Excellent. So you'll notice in this particular graphic, this student is in the middle. So that's what we mean by the wraparound. In the top blue corner where it says ICY Team Program Lead, that is an Island Health member. And to the right of that are the ICY clinical counselors. Those are our employees, and they report to us. They're exempt staff, and they're 12-month employees, and they provide clinical counseling, which is different than what our high school counselors do. This is therapeutic counseling, and reporting to them are the 2 child and youth peer support and family workers, and they are CUPE members, and they report to the clinical counselors, and they are all part of that wraparound team. Many of these other individuals around the circle, they work for different agencies. They might be community volunteer services, but the intent is that everybody comes together to support our children.
So who are the children that the teams will be supporting? So each team that is identified throughout the province is identified within the boundaries of the region of a school district. So the Cowichan Valley ICY teams are children, youth, and families within the boundaries of the Cowichan Valley School District, but are not necessarily Cowichan Valley School students. So it could be any students from early years, really from 0 to 21 years of age for the first couple of years, because the intention for the first couple of years is anyone who is currently receiving services in their 19th or 20th year from any of those agencies will be eligible to continue those services until they're 21. After that time, it will be a 0 to 19 age group. So anyone 0 to 19 within our boundaries, which includes anyone in a First Nations school, anyone in an independent school, Francophone school, even students who are not in school. So any family within the Cowichan Valley School District, which is partly why some of those employees, are excluded staff, because those clinical counselors will be providing that sort of targeted intensive specialized service to anyone within the community from 0 to 21.
What we understand about the clinical counselors in other districts is they're generally providing between 10 and 15 therapeutic sessions. If a child requires more in-depth, what the beauty of this whole system is that they have the connections with the people they need to refer students and families on to if they need more intensive support than what the clinical counselors can provide. So that's the other piece. It really does. There is an expectation that the barriers that have existed previously around confidentiality are broken down. There's a sharing of information in a respectful but confidential within the team, but not causing the challenges that happened in the past. Because as Kim mentioned, a student may have to tell and a family may have to tell their story over. They tell one organization, they're referred to somebody else, they tell it again, and people sometimes just give up. And so that's to hopefully prevent that situation from happening.
So the process, so how does all this happen? And one of the most important points Margaret made is that we're learning from districts that have been through this already. And Margaret mentioned Maple Ridge, which is one of the first districts, and that is kind of the district that we've been paired with as sort of our mentor district. So to kind of get some information and some understanding. The process is different in almost every one of the districts that it's been implemented so far, but we have really, really great support from the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. We have two, we'll call them program directors, I think is their title, that are assigned to us, and they support us really well with documentation and information and a lot of meetings. But what they've shown us is this 6-phase way to get from 0 to 100. So you've done your brand new district with an ICY team, or 2 or 3 or 4. We have 2, and then here you have your students, your children, youth, and families within your region who are experiencing these multiple access points in a more seamless way. So where are we right now? We are at this sort of phase 2 to 3 stage where we have begun the consultation process. We've begun a collaboration with the other ministries. We've begun hiring. So Island Health has, in fact, hired a program lead for our 2 teams and are in the process right now of contracting that person, and they should start by October 21st, which is really good news for us because we can't continue on with the hiring until that person is in place. Spaces is an interesting conversation. And while all this is happening, children, youth, and families in our region are accessing current and existing services. So we want to get from there to accessing services without the barriers that have been identified and that led to the Pathways to Hope document. So their next steps will be to continue hiring positions, to bring those teams together, to really put structures together around the referral system, and then to be on the ground providing that outbound and outreach service, as Margaret mentioned, that therapeutic 10 to 15 sessions of like more intensive specialized service for the children, youth, and families who have that mild to moderate mental health or substance use support needs in our community.
Just one more thing, just with the announcement that just came our way around the hiring of the lead, we now in the next 2 weeks will be putting out the clinical counseling role, so we're excited about that.
Questions, Trustee Schmidt?
Just remind me, so all of this is funded from the ministries? This doesn't cost us anything, but there are employees?
To be honest, we have heard that there might be some additional costs that we weren't aware of. But at the moment, yes. Just want to be transparent.
Any other questions? Trustee Croft.
I realize it may be early to say, but when you think things will be sort of, when do you expect to hit the ground running, so to speak?
January. That's our.
Did you say that already? I'm sorry.
No, we didn't. I don't believe we did say January. There are some training modules that the clinical counselors have to move through before they can completely take on their positions. And then once they're fully ready to go, then we hire the QP position. So it'll take a bit of time.
Where are these new people going to live?
Right now, we have found 2 offices at the McCurdy building up on Nickel Street and a shared space. Like in many situations, we're elbowing for space. It looks like we have space for them. But they also do a great deal of outreach. So it's services where people need the services, not necessarily from us.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Once you get off the ground and running, it would be nice to have let us know how things are going.
Absolutely.
Okay, framework for enhanced student
It is Jeff who is going to share that with us today. Mr. Rowan?
Yeah, so this, thanks everybody, the framework for enhancing student learning, and special thanks to Kim Derbyshire for really putting this together, formatting and keeping us in touch. We did present this at planning, so next week on October 1st, the board is going to be asked to pass this so that we can submit it into the ministry. So we want just to show you the finalized document, barring other edits or changes that you might see. In your agenda, it starts on page 14. So again, it's going to be approved next week, so we can submit it to the ministry. We've taken this FESL to our principals, vice principals group. We had a district team here really meet a number of times, take it away and create it over the last 4 or 5 months, I would say. And then get some feedback there. We took the feedback from the board last week and put it into this document. As you can see, it's organized. It's a ministry template, so it looks far different than our previous FESL, where we didn't have as much guidance. We're following up much more, I think it's much more thorough. We're actually quite excited about it because this really acts as a great tool for us, not only to submit, but a tool for us to use to review how we're doing and what we're doing and all of our data. So it's organized, and we'll go through it quite quickly because it's long, but the district context, then we're reviewing our strategic plan priorities. It's strategic plan 2020 to 2024, and it's reviewing last year, the 2023. So that's what we're focused on. Next year's special will be reviewing the 2024 area of this plan. So it's the areas of learning, the strategies, culture of care, Indigenous ways of knowing, and the future-focused systems. As you scroll through to, just so I know it's a long document, but on page 24, these are the rubrics that help us say, what is our strategy? So the first one was learning, identify the gaps, the effectiveness, and then the adaptations. And there's a rubric that goes through for learning, the culture of care is the next one, Indigenous ways of knowing, and our future focused systems. Okay. The next portions of the document are looking at the alignment of our resources and how we're aligning our strategies and resources for success. On page 30 of the document, I think is a really important one. This the needs-based model of support is something that we've spent a lot of time with as a district, really trying to target our and organize our supports for our kids who need them the most. Okay. And then that leads into the conclusion. This part here you all saw last week, and there were not a significant number of changes to that. What we have added in for this week is the appendix, and the appendix is all the data that we use to inform the report. So what the ministry said, the report itself is only supposed to be 10 pages long. we're a little above that, about 16 pages. But then the appendix is where you can put in all the other necessary things. So it's not 10 pages long, it's 58 pages long, right? So there's a ton of data. It's everything that we're using to inform our practice. The ministry data was provided. Some of the, Jason, if we're on page 34 as an example, Kim would have done a much better job than these squiggly lines the ministry gave us, because they're difficult to read. They're not as clear. But this was pre-loaded into the template. Those forms there. We have gone over that data a lot ourselves over the year. We've done it with you as a board as well to make sure we know what our targets are. Cindy?
So I'm assuming, but those little angled lines are the years. It's all okay. And so
years
with the
and
last
percentages.
and so with the last year being 2023
to 2022-23.
2022-23. Okay.
That's lagging data.
Yeah. You just can't tell what that one was. So, okay, so the last line is 2022, 2023, and then we back up from there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. Okay, and then we've done some analysis and interpretation on the data, the literacy work. When we get onto page 37, we're able to get into some of our own local data, which Darlene's done a lot of work with the university and SSDAS that we're getting from schools and classes. So it's not only ministry data informing us, we have our own, we also analyze our own data here in-house and our plans for action. That repeats itself for numeracy, ministry data, some analysis, plans for action. It dovetailing into Ryan's work a little bit, the career and life core competencies, he helped us out with that, made sure he contributed that information for us. So we do capture some of the work you just heard from Ryan in that area of this appendix. You see the numbers on page 54 that Ryan had shared earlier. So I'm not sure, Randy, I'm not sure if I'm asking for a motion. I don't think I'm asking for any, Robin? Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm asking for at this point.
I'll just help out a little bit here. I think that overall you can see as a board that the work that the ministry expects all districts to do, this is really a bit of an accountability document to take your strategic plan, take the data, do the analysis, and what are the plans of action. And I think that you can see that the work is around analyzing the data, and so you can see the plans of action on each page. But I think the major work is in the front page of the document when you see the conclusion on page 16, where it shows all the things that we're doing around that particular model. And I think that that's the helpful part. Last year, we had a very short 10-page document that I think was a little bit more readable, I'll say. But I think that this is far more comprehensive, and it is the expectation that it will go on it'll be submitted to the ministry, it will be put on our website, and every one of our school plans will follow up. And you can see that when you even listen to today, each one of those plans is based on literacy, numeracy, Indigenous ways of knowing, which is in alignment with our strategic plan. But this is an overall document across the district around what everyone is doing. And you can see that it's really focused, but comprehensive, and very large in terms of looking at the data. So we have to continue to do that work all the time. Would you like a recommendation to the board? Yes, I think we would. I move that we recommend this to the board. I guess open board meeting October 1.
Seconder, trustee Ross. Or is that a question?
It's a second, but once the motion's on the floor, I'm hoping to share a question as well.
Okay, we got a seconder, questions?
So the process of how we look at education and we look at our strat plan and all that, so this is all very aligned. So how connected is this to the ministry's curriculum and all the foundational documents and values that go into that? And the reason I'm asking that is because we do have a party, the Conservative Party, that says if they are elected, they will redo the curriculum. Does that then migrate into all these kinds of assessments and that kind of work? And I know I'm probably asking for an opinion here, but I'm just wondering, is there a connection?
And maybe Jeff can follow up as well. I think that right now the ministry certainly has given us a direction around priority learners, children in care, students with diverse abilities or disabilities, as well as Indigenous learners. So you can see that's the focus area, and that's the data that we track, that's the actions that we implement. And of course, numeracy and literacy is what everyone is stating is needed, especially after the pandemic. If there's a new direction around some of the focus areas, which it's possible, because I think that for us in education who's been around for a long time, there's always a bit of a pendulum swing, but I never think that the swing is very far beyond the middle. There might be a little bit of swing here, a little bit of swing there, but overall, I think there's always an agreement around what public education stands for. And it is around the foundational skills. It's about being socially, emotionally responsible, and it's also ensuring that we support diverse learners. And so if there's a swing, we'll adjust, and I think that we always do so.
We've been looking at all the party platforms that outlaid, and I agree with Robin that the literacy and numeracy is going to clearly be front and center, as well as our kids that need pre-priority learners. That's not going to change with any part.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to just move on to an AP, the District Code of Conduct. On page 56, you will see that we have made some changes once again. And some of the revisions, look at this. You'll see on page 56, additions to definitions were included, and it was updated with regard to the personal devices. And we also wanted to define educative, preventative, and restorative. So prior to this document, it would not have been placed in there around those three definitions. And so you will see that on page, I think right at the front here. Also, we added the district policy on identity, belonging, and connection. So that was also part of our code of conduct. And I know that the board was at the heart of that matter. And of course, we have an AP also related to that. And then, of course, you can see where it says 1.2 that the information that aligns with the provincial policy guidelines and the expectation that each code of conduct decisions will align with educating and developing respectful, caring school citizens. Because we know that we have to provide education for our learners, but not even just our student learners, but our adult learners around that being educative first, preventative and restorative. So if somebody does do something wrong, how do we actually restore that relationship? And then, of course, the other change that was necessary was putting in the personal digital device. That was part of the ministry expectation that needed to be in every district code of conduct, as well as every school code of conduct. So those were the changes for the new district code of conduct. So it was updated just last June, but then we had to make some more updates. And so this is the final version of that document. And so this is to inform the board of such. And it will be shared with the schools here momentarily after we share it with you.
Thank you. Any questions? On to Mr. Sandquist, enrollment and funding.
Thank you. Every February, we project our enrollment for the next September. And we do that in February as it becomes a basis for the school district's grant estimate. So last February, we used Bergar demographics. We've looked at actual kindergarten enrollments that have come in so far. We project based on a pattern of in-migration to our community. So it is really common for the last 10 years, we have seen about 200 students arrive between the ages 1 and 16 in any given year. So we had projected modest growth of 70 FTE over the previous year, which we thought we were going to see about 20 down in elementary and about 90 up in secondary in the FTE. So that drop in elementary was predominantly predicted in kindergarten, where the previous year we had 575 Ks and we had projected that we would have 520 Ks, thinking we were being very conservative even with that projection. I'm going to put a little chart up here. This is where I deliver some bad news. Okay, stay with me here as I tell the story. This is not what happened this September. We are, in fact, down 156 students from last year, which is 226 students below our projection. So we did not have any in-migration, and we did not have complete kindergarten enrollment to the level that we expected. We lost students through each grade cohort, which means that unlike most years where people have moved to our valley and brought children with them, I suspect families have moved away from our valley and we've had a net out migration over the last year. That was completely is catching us off guard. You can see on my little column over here where I've kind of charted, whoops, I got rid of that.
Mr. Sandquist, can you please make that bigger?
I am, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to zoom it. Hang on. I'm unsuccessfully making it bigger. Going up. Yeah, okay. So what I'm trying to show you here is the growth that we've had year over the last decade. Now you can see in the COVID year where we had that drop, and then it bounced back very strongly. It bounced back, it continues to grow, and so this year we thought we would have 70, thinking that that was a conservative growth estimate. In fact, we're down 156 from the previous year. So whether that is a one-time blip or whether that is a continuing trend, we fully anticipated leveling out on our enrollment after this year, looking at our birth rate and our in-migration rates. So there are financial implications to dropping 226 FTE from projection, and they are significant. I'm going to go to that slide next. And that is part of our agenda package. And I'm going to show that to you here. So there's more of a story here. Let me just get that so I can get all up on the screen. So when we run while our enrollment is down, that is not the case on students with special needs. So what happens here is the complexities of the classroom have become greater. We have more designations and we have fewer students. So that doesn't necessarily mean a significant reduction in teachers because those complexities result in staffing through the Classroom Enhancement Fund, the rules around 3 designations per classroom. But it does mean that the board pays for fewer of those teachers. So we may not be seeing significant reductions in teacher numbers, but those that the board pays for, which were the old language before it was restored, have dropped significantly. So we've been looking at the dollar savings there. We also had 5 FTE in our staffing contingency, which can now come back as well. But the net change on the grant is about $830,000 down. But you can't have 56 additional designations and not provide supports for those students either. So there are costs that will have to come into the system. Just because the funding's here doesn't mean you can't now not put in services for those students. So we have spent the last 3 days, in this boardroom, figuring out how to manage this. We're not in financial hardship. Like, this isn't going to sink the school district. There is a good plan in place that will likely draw a few $100,000 off the surplus, which you'll find out soon enough is greater than we had anticipated. But it does require a lot of shuffling, and a lot of shuffling at the schools. So some schools have had more change than others. We see, continuing my storytelling, we see our Crofton, Chemainus area down 47 elementary school age kids. And I think, that may be an impact of the Crofton Mill situation. We see a significant drop in Francis Kelsey, but an increase in Quamachin and Cowichan. There's a new secondary school that may have had a greater impact than we had anticipated. So grade 8s that might have gone across catchment to Francis Kelsey have chosen to stay, so they have the opportunity to go to the new school. So some of those things are somewhat explainable from community perspective. We did see a drop of 50 grade 7s transitioning to grade 8, and even that doesn't typically happen. We know that some students will go to private at that grade, but we often also collect from other private at that grade. So that is a really interesting cohort, and our grade 7s were the largest cohort, which is why we expected our secondary to go up by approximately 90 FTE. We had this big grade 7 cohort coming into the grade 8 round. So lots of ins and outs, lots of really interesting data. We're going to have to try to figure out now, where did they go? What is the story? Is it in Alberta? Is it our families moving to Nanaimo? Our families moving to Souk? What is the story on Vancouver Island? Is it consistent with ours? That's work we still have to do. We've just been basically dealing with the teaching staffing. Everybody's been wondering, why aren't kids in classes? This is part of why kids weren't in classes until recently, particularly in elementary, because it is extremely complex now trying to figure out the dynamics of these changes. So this is it. This is the story. I don't know what to say. It was certainly completely unanticipated. I think most people challenge the data when I say that we're going to flatline or even slow down because of the growth that we have experienced here in this district over the last decade, but it definitely arrived this year. And I'll put this back up so you can see the chart again. This is our first drop of significance since 2013, 2014. And will we rebound? We'll find out.
Question. How long will it take to find out where these kids went?
It should be in our student information system, and I think that's just a task that we have to, and Eduardo has a question too, that is a task we have to still entertain. I think we'll have that. We'll look at that in the next coming weeks.
Okay. Trustee Schmidt and Trustee Souza.
First of all, thank you. I know when numbers drop that drastically, I know how much work that puts on the team, and especially you, Mr. Sanquist. Just when I thought that the board would have some breathing room for another year financially, I would say that maybe not so much. And I understand that schools were really getting antsy with not having their classrooms, and I just appreciate the work that went into this to get this right so that we can be careful with our funding, so that we can continue to keep our service levels the same, other than rushing to judgment, getting those classes in and then realizing we've overstaffed, and now next year we're going to have to look at some funding level cuts. So I just appreciate the time and the time that it took. I'm sorry for kiddos not to get into the classrooms. However, I'm thankful from a financial point of view that you took the time to make sure this was right, so that we were able to keep that money in the coffers and maybe avoid one more year of difficult decisions.
Trustee Souza.
Thank you. I have two questions. So one is, I mean, this is pretty dramatic, and I'm kind of rather taken aback by the number. So one question I have is with regards to whether or not you've detected any sort of pattern, like by way of per area. Is one area much worse off than another area? Is 156 across the district? I mean, it's a big district. where is the drop the most dramatic? If that has emerged. And then secondly, I'm curious around, in terms of what you were asking about, like where have they gone, what the methodology will be to sort of ascertain what has happened. Thank you. Or if you have, if there is a methodology, sorry.
I would say that north and central areas would be where the majority of the change has occurred, not so much in the south or in the Lake Cowichan area from a population perspective. My quick look at the data tied more to the northern part of our district. I would just explain that there were 47 elementary alone in the Chemainus Crofton area, which is a third of the change. And for the smaller communities, I think it is certainly across the district in that we expected more growth in certain areas, and that didn't happen. That's part of the loss here, is that we didn't have the in-migration that's typical. That data should be in the student information system because we transfer files out. When a student moves from, as long as they're within British Columbia, or there's usually a note if they've left the province. So we'll have it. We'll have that data, and we need to do the work to figure that out. But it won't change the reality that we've had an out-migration, I believe an out-migration this year.
Any other questions?
You certainly don't see it in the housing starts or the building in our community. So it's quite, and I would just say that this story may not be common, or may not just be the Cowichan Valley story. I think if you look at Penticton and Vernon, which are similar sized communities, they're starting to experience a similar demographic shift that we're experiencing here in the Cowichan Valley. Those districts are also down, and you have an example at Penticton, significant drops. So I think some of us school districts that are next to big centers that have large in-migration or immigration, like we know Kelowna has already come out and said they're down 400 from projection. So that on scale is similar to the situation that's happened here.
Steve Croft.
We rely a lot on the BERGARD data, correct, when we project? And so I guess my question is, so now that we have this real data, does that then go into BERGARDs for when we start talking about next year? And how does that all roll together?
It really does. We know our birth rates. We know our typical capture. So from that birth rate, how many students do we get? I think what is wrong in the projection is that in-migration number, that typically there's 200 children between the ages of 1 and 16 that move into the Cowichan Valley, and they offset our reduction in birth rate. So if we're down we thought we'd be down by 55 students in birth rate. We thought we'd have 120 coming in to replace that birth rate and then growing. And that is conservative on a number that's typically been 200. So these were conservative projections. That 200 didn't arrive, and that 200 have arrived every year, upwards of 400 during COVID. Something happened where they did not come to the Cowichan Valley this past year. So I believe that the reason the BERGARD was out is the in-migration factor, and we will look at that when we do next year's projections very seriously.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. All of that. Okay, committees, highlights of the September 17th advisory committee meeting. Steve Croft.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be able to share this with everybody. We actually have a relatively quiet and brief advisory gathering in September. People reported the excitement of the new school year and some highlights from the Terry Fox Run. Our superintendent, Robin Gray, provided sort of a check-in update regarding the regeneration of the strategic plan. And we did request some feedback. The strategic plan is going out to students and parents in the next little while and looking for their feedback. And so at this time, the advisory folks, our educational partners, didn't have a lot to offer on that. However, that consultation is in place at the schools, and there'll be other opportunities to hear more. And we will gather again in October.
Well, thank you very much. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Trustee Schmidt. Trustee Croft, all in favor? Thank you very much.